Well, in my opinion, the physical market is not supplying the needs of industry. Um, we've been in a deficit for quite some time, and some of that deficit's being filled by recycling, but recycling is a dwindling industry. Particularly at current metal prices. In order to accelerate recycling, we would need to have much higher metal prices. I've said this in many interviews. I think we probably need $8 to $10 copper. I think we probably need, north of $100 silver and north of $3,000 gold to really light up the recycling industry, because it's just simply not happening. Recycling is just too expensive, and it's not profitable, not economic. The miners, talking about silver, we mined 760 million ounces of silver in 2020. I know it was down a little bit due to COVID. That compares to around 840 million ounces the year before. The number for 2021 is, probably going to be closer to 840 million, because that would make sense. But if you go back, to 2015, where we were at 880 million ounces, and that was really the peak. So silver production from the miners has been dropping relatively consistently for 5 years. Consumption's remained, growing. We're still in the, north of 1 billion ounces of silver being consumed by the world economy. That's investment demand. That's, of course, jewelry as well, but industrial demand, at 70%. With two big drivers, electric cars and solar panels, now they're relatively new buyers, in this space, and they become the two largest buyers in the space. So you've got a growing demand and what appears to be dropping mine supply. Well, where's the silver going to come from is the big question. This whole new Green Deal, of course, there's a lot of demand on metals. This is one thing that's kind of lighting up the mining sector and the metal sector, because governments around the world are wanting to go green. They're wanting to get off oil and gas. I think their wishes, are going to take longer than what they're suggesting. I don't think we're going to be off oil and gas by 2030 or even by 2040, because it's just too big of a job to do. There's just not enough metals or actually not even enough manufacturing facilities or capabilities to even change the way the planet, feeds energy. It feeds itself energy. We're going to have to, have some nuclear. The nuclear industry is going to have to be expanded. Oil and gas will need to be given longer to come offline. We still are always going to need oil, probably for the next several hundred years, because it's used in, virtually everything we do, chemicals and, furniture and plastics and, alike. So I can never see us getting completely off oil and gas, but for pure energy, natural gas, needs to likely be expanded as well, which is what we're seeing in Europe. So, changing the grid is just going to take a long time. In order to incentivize the miners to go and mine these low-grade copper deposits or silver deposits or even, gold, you're just going to need so much higher metal prices to incentivize the miners, because it takes so long. You have a silver mine, 10,000 meters up in the Andes in Argentina or something like that. To build one of these big mines, you're going to need $1 billion to do it. These are very difficult environments in a lot of cases, and the metal is very, very low grade. So it takes a lot of effort, well, for one, you need to have the governments on side. So you need all the regulatory, you need the permits, then you need to have all the engineering done. Then you have to raise all the capital. Then you have to build, this mine, which is going to take you, several years to do it. So, it's a big risk, for the mining company to actually, step out and say, okay, we're going to put $1 billion into this low grade mine that's not economic at $25 silver, but is economic at $100 silver. So, that mining company has to have a view that $100 silver is going to last for at least a decade, or hopefully longer. And if the board of directors of that mining company don't feel that's the case, then that mine just won't get built. So that's my question. Where's this metal coming from? The mining sector it's a unique sector. It's it's really the only sector on the planet that doesn't have pricing capabilities of the product that it manufactures. All other industries have that capability. If you're going to produce jeans or automobiles or computers, you know what profit you need to make, and you price your product accordingly, and hopefully you can sell it and sell enough of them to build the business and so on. In the mining sector, it's very cyclical, and we go through times of high profitability, and then that's great times, of course, and then we try to accumulate as much cash as possible during those periods, because as a guy, I've been in the mining sector for 35 years. I've been through a lot of downturns, and those downturns can last years and can be quite painful. And if you haven't prepared yourself for that, you could run into some serious difficulties. In order to get into another business like refining or even minting is another area that I quite like. You see the products behind me right now. These are products that we have minted, and owning more of that supply chain does make sense, and it's something that I've considered many times, and it may happen. It just finding the right business combination that makes sense for us and the potential partner or seller. Though those are the types of things that are often hard to accomplish, right? That's why things like that take a while. But yeah, it's closing that loop would be of interest. But it's the way the whole system just works. And you could be critical of the banking system all you want. And we know the banks trade these markets, and they a lot of people blame the banks for manipulating these markets and so on. But that's the engine really behind the system, right? Where it's the banks that finance all the real estate construction. It's the banks who finance ship construction. It's the banks who finance the mining sector. But banks are there. They're integral to our structure, our business. So our silver goes out the door. We need to get payment, right? And we need to get payment quickly, right? We get emails from groups in India and Korea and Japan and all around the world saying, hey, we want to buy your silver production. Well, for one thing, we would have to hire a staff of people just to manage that. We'd have to do due diligence on the buyer to see if they're legitimate. We'd have to have proper banking relationships set up with them so that we could actually get paid. It's a totally different thing, right? And the nice thing about selling silver and gold is we don't need a marketing staff.